Alright, it's time to kick this month of archetype analysis off. We're taking a look at one of my favorite archetypes of all time, that being Timelords, a 5Ds era archetype used by the end boss of 5Ds, Zone. A really good character and a villain at that, who gets an incredible redemption as well. Spoiler for all of you who didn't watch 5Ds yet, but anyway, let's start this archetype analysis off with the level 1 Time Maiden. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. This card can be treated as 2 tributes for a tribute summon of a Timelord monster. You can tribute this card, add 1 Timelord monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon 1 Timelord monster with 0 attack from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You cannot special summon other monsters the turn you activate this effect. You're never gonna want to run with any less than 3 of these, because this thing does almost everything for the archetype. As in, you can special summon it if your field is empty, which is gonna be most of the time when you're starting off your turn with Time Lords. And yeah, it can even be used as 2 tributes, but you're barely gonna use this effect since its search effect is incredible, really. If you're wondering why the 0 attack limitation, well, we'll get there, just you wait. And as for the banish effect, the old Time Lord monsters, well, almost all of them, as we'll get to a Nami monster later, cannot be special summoned from the deck. And yeah, that's shared amongst almost all of them. However, you won't be using that effect so much because you will want to revive this thing, since you can use Monster Reborn or any revival card as in Soul Charge as well, to revive this card and perform more searches. The best part of this effect that the search is not limited to once per turn, so it's incredibly easy to search almost all of your Time Lords and have your resources ready in your hand as soon as your next turn comes up. As we'll now get into the main gimmick of the Time Lord, starting with the first Time Lord monster, Meklord the Time Lord. They're all level 10 monsters of varying attributes. They share every attribute except Dark. So we'll start with the 3 Fire Time Lords. So anyway, Meklord is a level 10 fairy, and yeah, cannot be special summoned from the deck. We've all mentioned that. I'm gonna read out the effects that are shared among all Time Lords. Well, almost all of them, as we'll get to that part later. Well, they all cannot be special summoned from the deck. If you control no monsters, you can normal summon this card without tributing. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. You take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. And yeah, and during your standby phase at the beginning of your turn, you must shuffle this card into your deck. All Time Lords share this effect. And now this is where their individual unique effects come in. They all have an effect which applies after the battle phase, after they've battled. So Meklord, at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can return as many monsters on the field as possible to the hand other than this card, and if you do, you inflict 300 points of damage to your opponent for each monster return. Well, this effect can be really devastating if your opponent can produce such a nasty board with extra deck monsters, since you reset everything. And yeah, the burn damages will be about around 12 to 1500 then. And yeah, as in for any Pendulum player, it can be fun to pull off because you can burn him for a significant amount, but he can just like Pendulum summon those monsters back again. So yeah, Meklord is the very first Time Lord to be released alongside the end boss monster, which we'll get to later, which is weird because it took them a while to get all the Time Lords released and as in part of an archetype. I'd say run at least 2 of these because its effect is not the greatest, but it's certainly not the worst either. Next Time Lord monster is Lotzian the Time Lord. Same effects as all other Time Lords, and an additional effect is at the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, shuffle all cards in your opponent's graveyard into the deck. And once per turn, if your opponent draws a card, inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. This effect is extremely brutal towards Lightsworn players, since these guys are focused on dumping stuff into the graveyard. Well, any deck that focuses on graveyard manipulation is pretty much can get screwed over by this thing. And then we have the draw effect, and it can be, actually there is a Timelord card which works wonders with this. We'll get to it later. And yeah, this thing is actually also really good, especially since a lot of the modern decks now have lots of graveyard manipulation. So yeah, I'd say run definitely 3 of these. Their next Timelord monster in the final Fire Timelord is also one of their best Timelord monsters, and that is Michian the Timelord. And when he battles at the end of the battle phase, you halve your opponent's life points. Wow, that is really brutal. And yeah, I'm not gonna dwell too much on this because halving your opponent's life points is always a wonderful strategy. So yeah, run 3. And now we're moving on to the Water Timelords. The first one being Zuffian the Timelord, also one of my favorites in terms of visual design. And when she battles at the end of the battle phase, you can shuffle all spells and traps your opponent controls into the deck. And she also has an additional unique effect, and if it is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card. This effect is weird, and it was made because of its anime effect, which stated that if she is shuffled back into the deck by its own effect, you get to draw cards equal until you have 5 cards in your hand. Which is understandable why they nerfed the effect, but they should have made it. They should have kept the effect part where she gets shuffled into the deck by its own effect. It would have been much easier for that plus to happen. But yeah, that draw effect, that might actually never happen if you're using her as a way out for some nasty locks. So yeah. Non-targeting removal, Rainbow Dragon effect, always a plus, especially a part of a Rainbow Neos's effect. So yeah, run 3 of these, I dare you. It's really amazing how this removal can result in some nasty plays. Alright, so the next and final water monster is Gabrian the Timelord. And when he battles at the end of the battle phase, shuffle as many cards your opponent controls as possible into the decks. Then they draw cards equal to the number of the cards shuffled into their main deck. Now, you might be thinking that this is basically the worst Kurat's Delight Monarch, but that's where you'd be wrong. Because we have 2 cards that work wonders in conjunction with this, one of them being part of an archetype. Remember Latzian's draw effect, which inflicts you 1000 damage? Well, if your opponent has a pretty nasty looking up board, which it probably will, you can actually score around 10,000 plus damage with this effect and basically OTK him. But the other card which works wonders in conjunction with this is the Protector of the Sanctuary, since he prevents cards being drawn outside of the draw phase, meaning you will get the Rainbow Dragon effect on you, which affects only your opponent, and he won't get a plus. So yeah, I'd say run 2 of these because you won't be able to pull these plays off consistently, which I just mentioned. And yeah, it's pretty, how should I say, tricky to get multiple Time Lords onto the field, as in we'll get to a certain support card that helps out with that, but I'll discuss it much there. I'd say, yeah, run 2 of these. Their next monster is the Earth Monster Timelord Kamian the Timelord. Fun fact, Kamian means truck in Croatian. So yeah, this is supposed to be like some sort of god, the Timelord, since Kami means god in Japan. So yeah, at the end of the battle phase of this card battled, you can shuffle 1 card your opponent controls into the deck and then inflict 500 damage to your opponent, and neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this effect activation. Well, it's non-targeting removal once again, but yeah, it's much more worse than Gabrian, but it's better because no one can activate effects in response to this card's activation, and the burn damage is pretty sweet too. Yeah, I'd say run 1 or 2 of these if you feel like it. Their next Time Lord is Hyland the Time Lord, the final Earth Time Lord, and if she battled at the end of the battle phase, If your life points are lower than your opponent's, you inflict the damage to your opponent equal to the difference. So basically, you're kind of equalizing your life points, and this can work as well really well in conjunction with a certain other Time Lord monster, which we'll get into later. So yeah, I'd say run 2 or 3 of these. Their next Time Lord monster is their first Wind Time Lord, Sadian the Time Lord. And at the end of the battle phase, if your life points are lower than 4,000, they become 4,000. So yeah, this is kind of like a comeback enabler Time Lord, as in he can pretty much help you out if you're losing the game. And it's a pretty sweet comeback enabler. So run 1 or 2 of these if you feel like it. And their final Wind Time Lord monster is Ruffian the Time Lord, and if he battled at the end of the battle phase, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack of 1 monster your opponent controls that battle this card. So yeah, this basically depends on your opponent having really strong monsters on the field, but yeah, it can be good to finish up limping opponents so not everything is bad. Run 1 or 2 of these. And their first Light Time Lord monster is Sandian the Time Lord. It's a level 10 monster that can be normal summoned and has 4,000 attack and defense points. He was actually improved in terms of stats as compared to the anime, because in the anime he had 0 defense, I think. But anyway, after he battles at the end of the battle phase, and yeah, no one takes damage from battles involving this card, not even you or your opponent, which is kind of a bummer. And yeah, at the end of the battle phase, if he battled, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. This card works well in conjunction with Michian, Hylian, and even Latzian in some situations, because it's incredible. It's a level 10 monster with 4,000 attack that can be normal summoned without tributing. What's there not to like? Yeah, always run 3 of these. The only downside with him I can think of is that he cannot be surged by Time Maiden, since she has the 0 attack restriction, which I am now explaining to you. And now we get to the final ultimate Time Lord monster, that being Cephalon, the ultimate Time Lord. And he cannot be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by having 10 or more monsters in your graveyard. And once per turn you can special summon 1 level 8 or higher fairy monster from your hand or graveyard, but its effects are negated and its attack becomes 4,000. So yeah, this is pretty much also a mediocre comeback enabler in Time Lord, since it heavily depends on your graveyard setup. But it's actually a very welcome addition in Lightsworn decks, since Lightsworn decks tend to have a lot of monsters in their graveyard, and they run quite a decent amount of level 8 or higher fairies. I believe I saw some variants with Splendid Venus, which is also a very welcome addition to this deck, since it's a target for trade-in, and yeah, you can also make massive pluses of it. But yeah, this is not so useful in any other Time Lord build. Well, depending on the build, of course, because you could actually make a Time Lord beatdown build, which is not advisable, since you'll mostly be losing your entire effects of Time Lord monsters. And yeah, run 1 or 2 of these. It helps out. Alright, their first trap card is the continuous trap Empty Machine. The first time this face-up card on the field will be destroyed by opponent's card effect, it is not destroyed. Once per turn you can activate one of these effects. Discard 1 level 10 monster, draw 1 card. If this card is the only card in your spell and trap zone, target 1 Time Lord monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, then you can set 1 Infinite Machine directly from your hand or deck. Alright, so many things about this card are sweet. First of all, the Infinite Machine is the second evolution out of 3 for this trap card. And I like how you can discard any level 10 monster for a plus, meaning you can be open-ended in terms of consistency boosting. And yeah, And when this thing is the only spell and trap in your spell and trap zone, yeah, it probably will be most of the time. So yeah, you can always search out an infinite machine, which is another evolution. I like its protection effect. So yeah, I love this thing. But you always run 3 of each trap. So yeah, the next one is the infinite machine, which we've already mentioned here. And we need to activate this by sending 1 face-up empty machine from your spell and trap to the graveyard. Once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Once per turn, activate one of these effects. During the main phase, special summon 1 Timelord monster from your hand, and you can target 1 Timelord monster in your graveyard shuffled into the deck. Then you can set 1 Infinite Light directly from your deck. Infinite Light is the final evolution of this trap card, and yeah. And this is where the gimmick of having multiple Time Lords on the field truly begins to shine. It's a shame that you can only activate one of these effects per turn, and yeah, having multiple Time Lords here could be really nasty in terms of what the opponent can do then. So yeah, you always run, like I said, 3 of each trap. So yeah, hoarding Time Lords is something you always want to do in any Time Lord build. So yeah, and the protection effect is also incredibly sweet here, since it's since it actually is the same as Empty Machine when I think about it. But anyway, it's time for their final card, the Continuous Trap Infinite Light. Activate this card by sending 1 face-up Infinite Machine from your spell and trap to the graveyard. This face-up card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Neither player can target Time Lord monsters you control with card effects or return Time Lord monsters from your field to the deck. Once per turn, if you control no monsters, you can special summon up to 1 Time Lord from your hand, deck, and graveyard with different names ignoring their summoning conditions. Holy shit! The best continuous trap card for the best archetype ever made. Well, one of the best archetypes ever made. But yeah, the protection effect, you literally cannot destroy it with card effects. Well, only Castell can get rid of it, but we'll get there when we get there. So yeah, I also love how you can summon up to 3 Time Lords per turn while you mustn't control any monsters, which is actually quite a common thing with Time Lords, since all of them tend to shuffle themselves into the deck upon every standby phase. So yeah, it's a really awesome card, and the protection it offers is magnificent. Holy shit. Yeah, run 3 of these at all times. Such a shame it doesn't have the anime effect, as if it was removed from the field by other means that you can special summon Cephilon. But yeah, this new effect more than makes up for it. But anyway, let's get to the grading scale. Consistency. Well, Time Lords have access to a lot of things. They can search themselves with Time Maiden within their own archetype. They have access to Senyan, Witch of the Black Forest, Trade-In, where you play Master Hyperion and Splendid Venus as target. They can discard any level 10 monster to use the Empty Machine trap card. So yeah, getting to them is almost never a problem, and I'm gonna give them a 2 out of 3 for that. Power. Well, the power aspect is kind of minuscule, since only 2 of their monsters have 4,000 attack. But yeah, you mostly don't care about the power aspect, since their stun and control effects take in favor for that. Still, they have a monster which can be normal summoned without tributing and has 4,000 attack, so I'll be generous and give them a 2 out of 3 as well. Comeback ability is a definite 3 out of 3, because these things have outs to a lot of things. And yeah, anything can really happen with them, and Soul Charge can also revive them from the graveyard if you ever so feel like it. So yeah, like I said, 3 out of 3 there. Protection, yes, 3 out of 3 there, because combined with Infinite Light and their own protection effect, they are one of the trickiest archetypes to deal with and to get rid of them. And as for the versatility, they don't have much available to them. Well, I mean, Cephilon is splashable in Light Sworns, and maybe Sandayan as well, but yeah, they don't have access to a lot of things. But the rank 10 builds are pretty sweet too, so I'm gonna give them a 2 out of 3 there. And yeah, we are done with Time Lords, and I am really glad how they turned up, because they became a really good archetype, and it's incredible how much they've evolved since their anime debut, and how they've made an impact on the community. Because yeah, I really love to see more support for this. It's a really good archetype, and I really love it. Aesthetically, visually, it's gorgeous. Really, they're based on the archangels of some sort, and yeah, I really love mythologically, or how should I say it, religiously, if they're archangels. I like that sort of aesthetic, and when they're making new archetypes. So yeah, I'll catch you with the next archetype analysis. I won't spoil what it is. I'll surprise you. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. And as usual, I'll upload the next vid whenever I can. See you all. Have a good day. Peace.